everybody, and welcome to Brujo 101. It's me, Tanya, with my fabulous sidekick friend.
Martin Moreno. How are you, Tanya?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm feeling better. I woke up a little rough. Thank you for helping celebrate yesterday. Thank you for joining in the festivities and toasting to my 53rd birthday. I typically don't celebrate birthdays.
This is true.
And, Chiki's always like, you got to celebrate your birthday and make a big thing out of it. But, you just get older and you just start saying, fuck it, But you made a very good point. You got to celebrate and be thankful for another fucking year.
Turn around the sun.
Yeah, that you're alive and on top and, on top
Thriving.
of the ground and doing things and yeah, so thank you for helping me celebrate. I had a blast. I got
we toasted 53 times.
We toasted many times, many
That's
toasts,
good.
which was fantastic. And we do have I'm getting over here all caught up in my it's still my birthday, bro. But we have a special guest with us, Tammie Merheb-Chavez.
Yes.
And Tammie, you, my friend, thank you for correcting me because I called you a ghost hunter and you said, oh, no.
That's
She
not
didn't
me.
say it like that. You didn't say it like that. You said, I'm actually a paranormal investigator, which is, I guess there's so many different, we're going to get into all that, but ghost hunter is such a, universal term. Like people are
Exactly.
like everybody's a ghost hunter.
Like it's very
it
broad,
seems.
right?
Very
Everyone
broad.
loves it.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And now paranormal investigator. I mean, you probably have tools and things.
Yes, it's more to do with helping people investigating, private properties, and it goes beyond that too. You're learning about the history, you're doing your due diligence and the research, but primarily you're helping individuals who are experiencing things in their own private homes or dwellings. And for a ghost hunter, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that they're more urban explorers, They're there to justify what's out there for themselves, which is also amazing.
So people hire you when they start having things happen in their own properties.
Exactly.
Like my house is haunted.
Yeah,
right?
their own properties,
obviously.
businesses, you name it. I've been contacted and asked, hey, can you come in with your equipment and maybe a couple people that you know and just tell me I'm not losing my mind? Tell me that, that door has been shut and not swinging back and forth between certain hours at this time. So, yeah, I'll go in and investigate and see what I can find.
The idea of Casper and the sheet and the ghost and the boo, is
And the
like
boo.
it's like so like cartoonish almost, right?
Yeah, it's very commercial.
Yeah, but when you start talking about energy and spirits and entities and demons, maybe, or is that
Everything.
crazy talk?
I always like to say that we're all energy, that we're all surrounded by energy that we really can't necessarily like feel, see, and touch and smell. I've been asked a very simple but very difficult question, and I'll probably ask you guys. The tables are going to turn a bit. What do you define to be a ghost? See, yeah.
I guess a ghost is somebody who's passed on and lost like their worldly, like the meat and bone, and now it's just energy. That's what I think it is.
Yes.
It's just energy. But
Yeah, it's a
I
good
don't count, girl. I'm a witch. So
Would that be a
I
spirit?
think it's energy.
Would that be a spirit? What's the difference between a spirit and a ghost?
Well, I think that spirits and ghosts are the same. I just think that some are like,
They're the same manifestation. Yeah.
right?
But you got it right with the energy part.
Right.
It's one of those open-ended questions, But yeah, that's a really good take on it. And it's always a different answer that I receive. And I love hearing everyone's answers to that question.
So do only ghosts haunt places? Like,
No.
okay.
They could be attached to a person, a thing, an object. I recently had conducted a paranormal investigation at the Los Angeles Police Museum in Highland Park. And they have a lot of haunted history that's attached to the building. But what's in the building is what is more important. They have weapons. I'm sure you guys remember from the 1997 North Hollywood shootout. They have an entire exhibit of everything that the masked armored criminals wore Larry Smith Jr. and Emil Matusranu, what they wore on February 28th of 1997 when they walked into the Bank of America off of Laurel Canyon between Minoan and Victory.
Yeah, the weapons that they had were way more sophisticated than anything the police department had at the time. I remember.
LAPD has everything, the clothes that they wore, the gloves, the watches that were sewn onto the gloves, the pictures of their surveillance. But can you imagine the energy that has been absorbed into those weapons? When you hear the police call, you could hear the fire going off in the background. And it's the reason why nationwide police unions and organizations carry military grade weapons, you know.
Because of that incident, it shifted.
It sparked that way, you know. And not only that, I was able to be in a room with 66 plus boxes of the Charles Manson and La Bianca and Sharon Tate murder case files. I was in a room with the Marilyn Monroe investigation box of things that belonged to her, things that they collected from her house. So all those things embody some sort of attachment, and it just like kind of amplifies there, manifests.
My dad's sister had lived in in South Central Los Angeles, and she had this garage with a lot of boxes, and these boxes had these old pictures, like ancient pictures in there. And you know, that's what, when you're talking about like the Manson-ness, obviously these weren't criminals, but the energy of those memories and of those pictures and what's in those boxes was, you know, multi-generational deep. Like I can see pictures of my my grandfather from my mom's side or whatever, and then I start thinking like how, you know, like that dude's energy is still somewhere in my DNA, obviously.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And
your loved ones are always going to be around you.
And now what I don't understand is like these specific places that are quote unquote haunted, right? Does everybody get visited by loved ones and they're just not sensitive to it? Is it everywhere, or is it just select places? Like, oh, well, somebody got murdered here and now there's a lady roaming the 9th floor. You hear that in different places, you know. Does it have to be something tragic that happens to bring somebody that's going to go and make their presence or energy felt? Or is it everywhere again and we just don't notice?
I feel like it's everywhere. It's another open-ended question too. It doesn't necessarily have to be a violent act. Take, for example, Judy Garland, the house in, I believe it's in Michigan, her childhood home. There have been workers who've claimed, because they turned her home into a museum, where they see a little girl running around the first floor and they don't know who it is. But then one of the workers saw a picture of Judy when she was very young, and they're like, that's the girl I would see running around laughing. So we believe, and other investigators believe too, and other researchers and enthusiasts believe that, you know, it doesn't have to be negative. It could be something super positive. Like, she was so happy when she was young, because if you hear her voice and how she deteriorated towards the end of her life, like the only happiest of her times was when she was growing up in that house. And that, of course, manifested and was absorbed into the walls. But I guess to answer another part of your question too, Martin, is some of us have like a clair, like we're clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, clairgustance. We can either hear it, smell it, see it, taste it, and feel it in our gut. And for some of us, all those things combined could be amplified, and we can just literally see and hear a lot of things that could be going on around us.
It's, you know, I mean, not to be a skeptic or whatever. No. You know, like I've been to places, you know, and somebody will take a picture and they'll say, "Oh, look at that orb," and it's like, okay, is it a fucking orb or is it a
fucking orb?
Or is it
is
this a
squint and you'll see
orb, or
Bigfoot?
Is it, you know what I mean? Or is this the light that's
This is
just
true.
you know what I'm
Yes,
saying, like, but if you
absolutely.
want to see
I
see
hate
it,
more pictures.
do you see what I'm? But because I've seen it all the time.
Yeah.
Like I've gone into basements in old buildings
I
around
get the chills. I
around
don't know
the
why. I don't like
country.
basements.
You
Yeah.
know, and you go down there, and then somebody's like, "Oh my God, I feel something," and then everybody gets chills. You know, and then it's like,
Yes.
"Okay, there's something here, something," here. And you take a picture, and it's like, "See that light right there? That was an orb." I'm like, "That was your flash, fucking monkey." You know what I mean? Like, couldn't people get them? I think people get
No.
themselves psyched up about
And
that.
that is a great description that you I love the term skeptic. I love that you use that because that also separates a ghost hunter from a paranormal investigator. We have to walk in with an ounce of skepticism but not criticism.
Right.
And
We
I
have,
love
we
it.
have a hard time doing that.
I love it. I love it when people say I'm a skeptic. No, that's great. I have investigated with a lot of skeptics, and I love to do that because the whole purpose is to debunk. We go in there to debunk as investigators, and I will be honest, like 65% of the time, it's the person and they're going through something, or it's a damn raccoon in the attic. It honestly could be, or it's like they're hoarders and they're on a lot of medication that causes hallucinations. So
65%, but the
other percent, if we can't explain it, if there's something that is connected to it, then there is a possibility that they got something there, you know?
So do you ever go in somewhere and then feel like something came home with you?
Never, because well, you know, you're a bruja. You set your environment.
Uh-huh.
And I set mine. I'm like, you're not, in my mind, I've learned to be very grounded. I meditate. I make sure, like, in my head before I go into a place, I tell them, like, you cannot follow me home. I've had psychics and friends of mine who are very sensitive. They're like, ooh, you got something outside of your apartment. I'm like, I know. It just won't leave me alone. I know it's from this. And they're like, it'll go away. So just as long as you set that intention in your space and you tell it it's not welcome, then you're fine. But outside, it's a different story.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is, I mean, you do this professionally, obviously.
Yeah, kind of like merged into doing it professionally now.
What do you mean merged into it?
Because before I created a podcast, Hollyweird Paranormal, and I wanted it to be more than lip service. I wanted to go out and see for myself as a skeptic. And I wanted to do the field work. I connected with historians first. They're the best because they have a foot into the locations. And they have a lot of, education and information of the location, and they're a great, third or second eye that you need,
Mm-hmm.
So for myself, that, kind of grew and merged into investigating more and more places. And then I started getting contacted by other people. Hey, come to my house. Hey, come to my apartment. There's something here.
Were you ever like, I'm not going to go to that apartment because these people seem a little nutty?
Yes. There's this one time I opened up my email and this woman's like, I need your help. And I respond, I'm like, is everything okay? I have demons. I have hundreds of demons in my apartment. I need you to come right now. I'm like, I don't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right? Because there has to be, like, it's a very thin line between, like,
Yeah.
fanaticism, some kind of
Everything's
religious
a damn demon,
Yeah, right? And not everything's a demon,
No,
right?
it could be IBS. It could be, other things.
What did you say? It could be what?
She's like, could be IBS.
Beautiful. People psych themselves up to believe shit. Like, look, I'm not saying that people make things up,
No.
but some of it is like, okay, you gotta be freaking kidding me. There's a YouTube clip out there in the state of Colima, Mexico.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of freaking duendes there.
There we go with the duendes.
duendes, right?
The cucuys.
And I don't know if we talked about this before.
You talked about it with
With the lady
with
the lady that got raped by the duendes. It's a viral clip. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've never seen it, but I've
this
heard.
lady talks about the duende came down. He came in and he started, one
he
night
came
I
in?
was wet down there and I woke up and I was so wet. And then I told my husband, you came into the bedroom and no me hablaste, no más te mentiste, you didn't talk to me, and he's like, no, it wasn't me.
Nobody write us.
This is what she
this is
said. This
okay.
is
It's
true,
like
dude.
her
I'm paraphrasing some of it, but
Her account.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And then she goes, no me di cuenta que era el duende. The duende came down, and
I mean,
had sex.
this.
Like,
Oh,
so now, if you hear some shit like that, are you like, let's go find these duendes? Or are you like, lady?
are you like, let's go find?
You know,
Are you trying to look for the duende? Are you like, this lady's crazy?
I mean, if you're an investigator, it's good to be open-minded. You know, a lot of times, like, I mean, like I said, the intention is always to help someone, and
Right.
there's a code of ethics that you do follow. Maybe we can refer this individual to a therapist, you know, and we've had a case where we had to do that. We had to recommend a woman to a therapist because when we walked into her location, she had a very messy house. She was a hoarder, and she had, when we walked through the house, we noticed the bathroom, and we noticed a collection of medication bottles. Like, we just didn't, of course we weren't gonna like intrude and see what she's taking, but it was a lot. You know, she lived in chaos, and it turned out that she was taking medication that was causing her to hallucinate. She also was suffering from bipolarism. Like, there's a lot of things that was going on with this woman, and we wanted to make sure that she was directed to the right form of help.
Okay.
And then, sure enough, the things
Stopped.
Started to
stopped.
simmer down for her.
Yeah.
I just want to say that the duende story, the only
Yes.
thing I think, this is the second time you said this, is what is your Google search history like that you find this? But we'll talk about that later.
Somebody
That's
sent
the
it. People
first-
send me things
that's
all the
first. Here
time.
we
Yeah,
go.
I'm not looking for
yeah.
raping duende. Rapey duende.
Raping little midget.
That is-
I'm
that
like,
is the
what
epic
is-
send.
Right? I'm like, what is, how do you find
Yeah,
this?
no,
shit?
Yeah.
people send me so much craziness, dude. Like some of the shit, like all the, all the stuff I've been talking about on the podcast with Hooter, like an Olympic committee in Japan. I don't know if you've been following those
Yeah.
monkeys. How they're like, you got these ancient dudes, saying
Women don't talk back.
women shouldn't talk. They should be there, but they because they
Oh,
talk too much, and
no.
then they all start talking, and before you know it, we're here for hours. So they can be here. They should just shut
Not
the fuck
speak.
up. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was Yoshiro. He resigned, and then recently
Another guy, right?
Hiroshi, and I think last week they had this plus size comedian, and he's in charge of the opening ceremonies, and he suggested that she dress like a pig and be lowered into
Oh
the
my God.
stadium, and she could be the Olympic.
Oh, that's horrible.
And
Bye.
and then so of course, now this is an 80-year-old guy, and what you have to understand, not defending him, this is a culture that notoriously fat shames. If you are overweight, they will poke your stomach, they will say things, they
Yeah,
will ridicule you in
yeah.
public and on television for being big, and they're I was just talking about this earlier.
We're going to get all kinds of videos.
38.2% of our population in the United States is overweight. 3.7 in Japan.
I mean, but they also
I mean,
work-
I'm not saying that we should be fat shaming, because I mean, hey.
I don't
Yeah.
want
I
to
could get poked.
digress, but there's a lot of things in Japan that aren't correct.
Correct. And so, like, there's people that are, and why did I get into this Japanese culture
Because
thing?
I said I wonder what your Google history looks
Oh,
like.
yeah.
Because of
See,
the
but
midgets.
these are
The
things that
midgets.
people are sending me. They send me the Japan stuff, the
Oh, I
Yoshiro
had no idea
stuff.
about this either.
Yeah, no, it's crazy talk. And because the Olympics are supposed to be, these are the heads of the Olympics. You see what I'm saying? Like,
It's horrible.
but again, a culture where women bow and obey man.
As it
let's
should
let's
be.
let's get
Just
that.
kidding.
Maybe we should get those things straightened out before we're upset that an 80-year-old guy said "Don't talk, woman," where they've been bowing to him his whole fucking life.
Yeah.
saying "Be quiet"
was
is the
something
least
that-
of his, of the problems in
Yeah.
the society,
That's
right?
been passed down for many,
Correct,
many years,
correct.
centuries.
That society has a lot of misogynistic ghosts.
Oh, that's the
They got
worst.
the misogynistic ghosts
That is
going on right there.
Misogynistic
They got
espantos.
the espantos. Forget the dwarfs. Worry about them.
Look, you've got dwarfs. You've got, the pueblo that my grandma was from. Always, they do this. They pull your feet. I don't know why Mexicans get their feet pulled, but te van a
Oh, and
jalar.
they would threaten you like that too. In
Te van a
Mexico,
jalar
they
los-
would tell you,
los
te van a
pies.
jalar los pies.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
Like,
They're gonna pull your feet.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
te jalan los pies. And like, when you're sleeping, these ghosts come and they pull your feet. And now, you're a kid, man, and you're like, God, I don't want
wanna get
now
my
you're
feet
freaking
pulled.
sleeping with your
Well, now I
all
gotta worry
curled
about
up in the fetal position.
Duendes, cucuy, La
You know?
Llorona.
Worry about
like,
those duendes for real, huh?
gosh,
Yeah.
sounds like stress.
And there's a lot of, I mean, look, La Llorona has been passed on from generation to generation.
Yeah,
The
that one
Wailer,
is-
right?
And it's morphed, right? Because there's like a bunch of different variations
It's
of
been
the
watered
Llorona,
down,
and now
yeah.
it's like
Ay,
the Llorona
mis
here, the
hijos.
Llorona there.
Yes.
And you know, in El Salvador, they have the Siwanaba.
Yes.
I don't know what that is.
It's their version of La Llorona, except she goes after cheating men.
You're
I haven't
lying.
heard about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one I haven't heard. Like, she goes after the cheating
because
men.
at first I thought she was going after the kids. And ay, mis
No.
patojos, but she doesn't say
I
that.
thought it was just men, period. Yeah.
I'm done. This is not. This
Yeah,
is
because you know how
not.
they say patojos? They call their kids patojos.
Well,
okay.
in Cuba, they have a sect called, oh my gosh, I can't think right now, but there's a sect where one day of the year, they say that the diablitos, which are like duendes, right? They go into the street, abacua.
Abacua.
It's a sect, and they go into the street, and you're supposed to hide your kids because those little devils will take your kids and kill them.
Come on, man.
So I know people who are abacua, right? It's a very misogynistic religion. It's only men, and it's only by your bloodline. So you have to be born in a certain part of Cuba, and it's all bloodline. Now more people are open to it, and I would ask him, what's up with that story about you guys going out and the duendes and the devils? And he's like, well, there were ceremonies that we did do, and they get dressed. I don't know if you've ever seen, but in Africa where they cover their faces completely. Yeah. He's like, and they're out there, and they just, they're calling certain spirits, and those spirits are little diablitos. He's like, and I'm not saying it's happened. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just telling you there's a ceremony that does happen for us to go out like that. And those people say that they're little. And then there's chibiricus, little duendes in the forest, which I told you I'm totally freaked out by. So
Look. I
don't like forest at all.
I'm saying that there's all these things like La Llorona, she drowned her kids and now she comes out looking for them.
Yeah.
And
well, that was because of her guy, right? That was like her guy
Over
left
a
her
man.
over a man,
Yeah.
right?
At the same thing, well, the other one, La Siwanaba, which is in El Salvador and Guatemala and all the, that area.
Yeah.
The Siwanaba was married to one of the gods, whatever god it was, and beautiful, one of the most beautiful women on the planet, just beautiful body, beautiful face, beautiful everything, but would neglect the kid and then pissed off the god. So he cursed her, and she kept her figure, but her face is the face of a skull or a horse. So then when men go out and they're walking around,
They see her body.
they see the body. She tells them, follow me. They go into the woods, and next thing you know,
You don't
she
cheat.
kills them.
This is
And-
like a club, and then the light goes on, and then you're like, she's not that hot.
She's not that hot. And,
This is exactly the story.
and so now, again, is this a fable that was created to keep cheating men in line? Like, hey, is La Llorona a fable created that to keep? Because first of all, was somebody married to a god that said, "I'm gonna turn you ugly, and now you're gonna be walking the earth
Yeah.
and killing cheating men"? You know
They're
what
like
I mean?
they're like urban legends. They're cautionary tales.
Like, be a good mom, right?
Be a good mom. Make sure that you baptize your child. I had one sent to me by a girl whom I can't remember the name of it. Maybe you do. It's a half woman, half owl. Lechuza. Now
I've heard all these freaking
yeah,
things. It's
the
insanity.
Lechuza, she was freaking out because she's like, "Oh, I haven't gotten my baby, baptized, and I know it's her outside." I'm like, "It's not, because it was a cautionary tale developed many centuries ago by the colonizers when they came to Mexico. They wanted to, turn all of the indigenous individuals there to follow their religion."
Catholicism.
Exactly. And if you don't baptize, if you don't convert to Catholicism, then you're going to be punished by the owl. They're going to take your child
Not just go to hell.
and then go to hell.
Well, now the owl and hell.
Yes.
Double.
And back
Double whammy.
in those times, indigenous people there, they respected and loved and honored animals. They were positive beings, and because of the colonizers, they became these, cautionary animals and creatures. So, yeah, I would tell her, you just had a child and you're believing in a lore that something's going to take that child away. And I said, what is your sleep like? Oh, I haven't slept. I don't sleep. I'm really stressed. I have my in-laws living with me. I'm like, that's going to be hard. That is going to be, you just gave birth. You have in-laws staying with you.
I like how you're talking her off the ledge. You're like, this is the problem. You need to live by yourself and you need a nanny, girl.
And then, but there are other things that were going on that I couldn't pinpoint. I'm like, maybe too, I think you might have something in your apartment, or you're very sensitive to things that are, something is trying to get at your attention. But I don't think it's
the lechuza.
Lechuza, no.
Can these things hurt you, the things that are in the apartment? I want to get to what have you found also.
Like I have let's say, example, I have a spirit. You go to my house, you know I have a spirit. I mean, if you go to my house, you know I have like 20. But, and then what can happen to me?
So I've heard accounts of people being attacked. Like they get scratched, they get pushed. There have been accounts of negative energies, being in one location where they can do harm.
To what extent can they kill you?
No, I don't think nothing like that.
Can they cause you physical pain?
They could cause mental pain.
Yeah.
They could really latch on to individuals who are going through something very tough or horrific in their life. When you're a negative person, when you're going through so much of a Great Depression, sometimes energies can latch onto you. You're a magnet, you attract that, and we've been in a couple of cases where someone brought home something from a location. It followed them, and when we did our due diligence on this individual, we found that this person lost their wife. They're going through so many tough things with their jobs. They are suffering through a lot of mental stress right now. So of course, sometimes things can latch onto you because you're feeding off of that energy, and sometimes the negative can be very powerful. Like when you think of mental health, it could be very, very powerful and drastic. It could consume you, and those energies outside can very much latch on.
So then your mindset has a lot to do, the way that you believe is your mindset has a lot to do with
absolutely
what you're calling and what you're opening, like the portal to, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. That's why I always tell you, I try to keep myself grounded. I don't want anything to follow me into my private home. My husband definitely doesn't want that to happen.
You're like, we are not signed up.
He still doesn't. Yeah, he still does not agree with what I do, but he supports it to a certain extent. And I always make sure, I've set my intention in my space, in my mind.
When somebody says, "Hey, man, there's this thing here," do you go to say, "Yes, it's here"? No, it's not here. And if it is here, are you able to get rid of it?
Well, it depends on what it is. If it's literally a raccoon in an attic, then we're call animal control, which has happened. Other times we've had to bring mediums in. I bring professional mediums in who know how to handle certain removal. And if it's something which has happened before this past year in an apartment in Hollywood, it's just this constant rotation of energy coming in and out. And it's like, well, we can remove things in here, but you're going to have new things come in. So it's going to be very difficult. And a lot of times energies can be very bound to a building or the location that they don't want to leave.
Not necessarily the people that are there.
No, not necessarily. Yeah.
So then are the mediums, okay, I'm really interested in this. Are the mediums doing like a seance and trying to communicate, or are they just doing like a cleansing?
Yeah. A lot of time it depends on their methods of how they approach it. Like I know one that comes in, does a cleansing and, communicates with whatever's there, trying to make it go, to the other side, go see the light. Leave these people alone. They're moving on with their lives. You have to move on and move forward with yours. And that is something that we, have to decide, well, is this energy that has been made up, or is it a human energy, that's been left behind? I don't know if you guys know anything about tulpas. That was a supernatural episode. We were talking about that earlier. Tulpas are, beings that have been made up by our human minds. Do you know what has been a really good example of that? Slender Man.
Oh, okay, I know what that is.
Slender Man was created.
Like
it was created on Creepypasta. It was created in those chat rooms, and look how it manifested.
They did like a whole movie.
Yes. And then in the 70s, there was an experiment called the Phillips Experiment. And this is proven. You can find this online. I love this experiment so much because it proves this is a theory that has been proven, not a hypothesis. But a group of scientists in the 70s created a ghost. They created a ghost.
Tammie.
Go ahead, Tammie.
No,
just
keep
just
going,
just
keep
keep
going.
it going, Tammie. Go ahead. They created a ghost.
They created a male figure. They gave him a name. He was a World War II soldier.
Oh, they created a background for him and everything.
Everything.
The Phillips
They even went as far as creating a living situation where they're like, well, Philip or whoever likes to come here, and he is seen, wearing his uniform. And the scientists were giving him so much of a life and putting all their time and energy that something 100% manifested.
I totally think that happens.
Yes, and I know
could totally see
this
that happening.
experiment was actually turned into a movie recently. I can't remember the name, but it was turned into a movie because it was something that was conducted and it was proven.
But this was a fictional character.
It was a fictional character that they made.
But it became a living
It became
entity.
an entity because energy is so easy to create, but it is can I curse?
Yeah, you can say whatever
It
the
is a
fuck you want.
bitch to destroy. It is. It is.
So they manifest all of their intentions,
All
manifested
of
that
them.
energy. Of course, it wasn't the guy who went to
Yeah.
World War II. But
Yeah.
if you say, okay, then I'm going to look it up because I
Yes.
totally think that can happen. One of those people obviously had a link to World War II. This is how the mind works.
Yeah.
He put World War II out there. So you don't know if the person that they manifested was somebody who was walking with that person who manifested because it came out of his mouth. I've never heard that before.
It is a fascinating experiment to look into, and that like as an investigator, that's why I love reading, and it's amazing. Like that's the whole premise of tulpa is this energy that's been created by our human minds.
Is that the one in that had the on Supernatural where they went into this house where there was some writing on the wall? Or
I think
some shit
that's
like
I
that?
think
That's-
that I think it
that's
was
what
like the
tulpas?
6th or 7th season. I could be
There's
wrong.
Now I'm
so
gonna have
many
to watch
seasons.
that.
I
show.
know
You
it's
guys just
seasons.
talked
so
about
confusing.
It's so many seasons.
Look at poltergeists. Poltergeist is another thing that's created by our minds. It's not human based. It is made up in our mind. It's not made up. It's actually controlled by our minds. Whenever you look into poltergeist situations and other evidences, there's never been a documentation of a full body apparition. It's always knock, stings, the throwing of glasses or other items. And it could get pretty out of hand. And it's a lot of times because of the human mind and what the human people are, what us humans are, developing and wanting to happen.
The breaking of a glass, for instance, in the
Yes.
kitchen. Could that be, this was a big, you're talking about the 70s. A big thing in the 70s was telekinesis, right?
Oh, RSPK.
But
Yes.
I've never heard it.
There was a woman, Nina, I can't remember her last name. You can find it. Russian Experiment. She was one of the first to display RSPK. She can move things with her mind.
What, like Carrie, right? The movie
Yes.
Carrie, which was huge back in the
Absolutely.
day. And everybody was fascinated with, like, can you bend this spoon? Can you move this? If you concentrate hard enough, we're all capable of doing that.
We are capable of doing so many things. And 2 weeks ago, I was talking to an investigator from the UK, and she said, Tammie, it's a lot of times people wanting a haunting. They want so bad to have a ghost and go through the motions that I've been called on an investigation of a poltergeist, and doing my research and interviewing them, I found out that they wanted so badly to be haunted, which is
That's bananas, dude.
it's insane.
But I think that there is something to that because so I'm in Santeria and I get people who come to the house who want to have like something either attached to them or it's weird. Like they'll be like, but no, but I felt it. And I'm like, but no, but this reading says that, no, that's not how it works. But they want to have that whole experience. I'm like, well, first off, if you really have that experience, I think it's horrible. But they want to, and they'll manifest things in their mind.
There you go.
And they'll blame it on this apparition, but it's not the apparition. It's them.
It's them manifesting
and they're moving
it.
it forward. But I also think there are some people who, something's going on. But where have you gone? Because I heard you go somewhere in Glendale, which my brother is a cop there. And I was like, oh, I'm going to tell him to tell me where that is. But I want to know, what's the most haunted place? Really, like, legitimately, there's something here and it's freaky. Because I'm going to take Martin.
I'm going to be honest with you. I saw my first apparition and I thought I was going crazy, and I was like, no, that did not happen, because I'm a skeptic with myself of what I see. But when you have someone who saw the same thing, then you know that you're not crazy. It is the Bracken Fern Manor in Lake Arrowhead. And Bracken Fern Manor, it is a legend that Bugsy Siegel used to go there with his gangsters, but it is true because it's built over a natural water line that, you know, back in the 30s and 40s, these, you know, gangs from LA would go and, you know, make the hooch. They would bootleg liquor.
Okay.
I mean, the whole place has a history, and it has a lot of entities. And I tell you, when I felt things there, I really felt things there that I couldn't even explain. And we went from one room where when I walked out, I lost my balance. I didn't want to be one of those like, oh my God, like I'm not. I'm like, no, it's probably because I had 2 Bang energy drinks, and I'm just like, you know, having the shakes.
So it's not a ghost.
I know,
It's the caffeine.
It's the caffeine. And then we go to the basement, and they tell us this was actually an investigation led by OC Ghosts and Legends, and we were doing an overnight investigation, just to preface. But we go to the basement, and they tell us, oh, people have seen shadow figures with fedoras, and they point at this door. They're like, oh, this is where they would distribute and bootleg the liquor right here. They would, you know, even bring people down to make them go away, if you know what I mean. That was a legend. So we were just sitting there. The group was on my right. It was me and 3 other people. The 3 of them were behind me, and I'm just kind of like in and out of a daze. I was like ready to fall asleep, and all of a sudden I see this figure literally like behind this banister, a few feet away from me, and it's looking at me, and I thought that it was one of the people in the group
Who was with you?
Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And he's just like looking at me, and I'm like, I'm so tired, I can't even keep my eyes open. And then the thing zips to my face, and it's this gold translucent figure. I can make out eyes and a nose and a mouth, and he's bald, and he's just looking at me. And my instinct, I'm like, no me toques, no. Like, I got up, and I was like, what are you, like, why are you in my face? And then I hear the group, they're like, what's going on? I'm like, someone's in my face. Who's in my face? Like, who's in my space? Like, who's here? They're like, no one has moved anywhere, Tammie. No one has moved in, you know, this vicinity. I don't know what you're talking about. They turn on the lights. No one is in front of me. And then I hear this voice behind me. They're like, Tammie, I saw the same thing. I'm like, what did you see? He's like, I saw like a misty gold figure behind that banister, and it went straight to your face, and it disappeared when you got up. And I was like, okay, I need to get out. I have to get out right now, because I am still processing this. I don't know, like, is it something that I took? Is it the Bang energy drink? Like, what is going on? And the owners said, no, people have seen things in the basement. That's a very active location.
So it's still open, like they function as a bed
Oh
and
yeah,
breakfast or
you can
whatever?
contact them and do the tours.
There's so many haunting tours all over the country.
Yeah, you could and do private
Boston.
private group investigations. You can rent the whole entire place and go. And it was so fascinating.
Tammie, we need less ghosts in my house. I'm not gonna go throw
We'll
my
find
stuff
more.
out there. But,
Yeah, but that was the craziest, and I still replay it in my head. I'm like, what could have manifested that? Nothing. You know, I saw what I saw. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Now, okay, so you saw what you saw. Now, are you still chilling there, or you're like, I'm gonna get the fuck
or
out of
like,
here?
I'm leaving. After that, were you like, I'm leaving?
I walked out for a couple minutes, and they were just like kind of trying to recreate it, you know, trying to figure out like, what did I see? But the guy behind me, he was this EMT, and he was telling me, he's like, Tammie, I saw it too. Don't worry, you're not going crazy. I saw it. I'm like, who was there? Like, was it someone from? He's like, it was no one from the team. They were all on the far right. We were in the far left. Like, I saw it. It looked like a man. I said, yes, I felt like it was a male energy. He's like, yeah, it disappeared when you got up. I would be scared of you too if you got up. So
you don't spook easily, though. You're
No,
not a
'cause-
person who spooks easily.
No, I'm not one of those people that run out screaming and cry or anything. I just try to like, I'm just so logical. In my head, I go by, you know, the phrase that you've heard on our podcast, no me toques. And
That's so interesting that you
No
said a
me
male
toques.
energy. A male energy.
Yeah. And it was.
And have you felt female energy?
Oh, yeah. I felt many things. Children are that's something.
How about
that
non-binary?
They,
we.
you definitely feel something. Like it doesn't have to specifically be, you know, female, male.
That's
male
like,
or
yeah, that's why
whatever.
when you said male, female, I was like, in today's world, it's like, wait, how do you know that energy identifies as male energy?
Yeah,
I mean, just, you know, to play devil's advocate here.
When I went to the Whaley house, that's another place to go that you're gonna see stuff. I have pictures that I can't even
Where is
explain.
that?
That's in San Diego, in Old Town San Diego.
I think I've been there.
And it's very, very active. You're gonna feel and see a lot of things there. My husband, the major skeptic, is like pointing things at me, like, Tammie, did you capture that? Did you see that? I'm like,
He's like,
I thought you didn't
get on
believe
this.
it. I know.
And how is it that you document that there is something there? Is it just visual and then you jot it down? Do you
Yes.
take pictures? Do you
Pictures,
measure?
EVPs.
What is EVPs?
Electric voice phenomenon. You record it. You could use the voice memo on your phone. You can use other 3D mics, but you go in, you do a session, you introduce yourself to whatever's there, and then you're like asking questions, just like you're talking to someone. And a lot of times, those energies want to talk to someone.
Okay, and so they speak, and you could capture it in your recorder, but you
Yes.
can't hear it in real time?
Yes. Do you want to hear one?
Stop.
I
You
do.
ready?
Okay, let's go.
All right.
Well, I'm in.
So this is from an investigation that I did before the pandemic hit at the Elks Lodge in Van Nuys. So this was an investigation conducted by Craig Owens of Haunted by History. We were separated in two groups, and the first group was in the second floor. And just to give you a little background of the Elks Lodge in Van Nuys, it used to be the first hospital of Van Nuys. And then it was turned into a Goodfellows, and then the Elks purchased it, and then they had a bar down there that was separate from the Elks. It's a whole history.
The Goodfellows, the I don't want to say the cult, the group, the Goodfellows,
It was, I think it was the Goodfellows, but it's not the. I think it could be the group.
Right.
I may not be sure 100%.
They were like Masons, right? The
Yes,
Goodfellows.
yes,
They
the
were,
Goodfellows,
They
yeah.
have a lot of secret rituals.
Yeah, so they had a
There was a
lot.
store, Goodfellas.
They have a lot of
I
activity
don't really.
there.
Yeah, there used
they
to be
were
a store
they were
called
like
Goodfellas.
I don't want to say cult because I know we're gonna get a bunch of people emailing us, but they were like the Masons, and they had a lot of secret ceremonies to be part of, and they were buried a certain
Yes.
way. I read like this whole thing on it. Was really interesting.
It's interesting because that place like has a lot of things that happen, and the individuals there, the head head Elks, they're like, we never believed in this stuff until we started like doing our meetings here, and things would happen. And so I know a lot of activity happens on the second floor. And I was in one room doing an investigation with a group, and another group was doing another one in a storage. So the man that was conducting this is a volunteer, and this is what he captured on his phone. Let me see if I can play it.
Are you here?
Oh, good idea.
Who are you trying to contact? What do you want to tell her?
So the yes is really clear, right?
Yeah.
When it says, "Are you here?" Yes.
Here, I'm going to see if I could play it on here. This one is better. This is the video.
So this is what she collected. At what time you guys think it was?
Let me see if I could.
Because it says I'm bad, right?
Yeah, I'm bad.
Are you here? Who are you trying to contact?
You're moving the phone. Because in the video, his phone is swaying.
Yeah, and then the quest
What do you want to tell her?
I am bad.
Sorry about
That
the
sounds
first
like
one.
somebody's whispering
Yes.
into. That sounds like somebody's making a voice, right? And whispering
Yes.
into the phone.
And there
I
were
would've been
8
out of there,
people in that
Tammie.
room. Yeah.
But you guys couldn't hear it while it was being.
We can't hear it in real time, right?
But then when you walk out and you're like, play it back.
Yes. And that's what happened. I heard a commotion. People were like, no way. And then Craig comes into my room and he's like, you have to hear this EVP we just collected. So
what is the reasoning on why you cannot hear it in real time? Is it the energy, the transference of energy? Is that what it is? Or what? Why can't, like, if it says something to Martin right now, why can't I hear it until I play it later?
a lot of times it's due to, I guess, I mean, it's hard to explain, but when it comes to the naked ear, we can't hear it. And the reason as to why that is because there's so much chaos or energy that's going around that we're just more focused on trying to collect something. We're shrouded in our minds that we can't hear it. And so you have a device like this that, is a 3D based mic. It's going to collect it and it's going to most likely know to talk into it. So that is something that, we still try to discuss, like, well, how come we can't hear it and we can still pick it up in our mics, There's been times where even at the Bracken Fern Manor, I have an EVP of a woman laughing and we all heard it in real time. Oh. And I was so happy that I captured it. But I think it's because a lot of people were like, they dispersed, they went in their own directions, and it was myself and another investigator, and we're just like, let's just chill out here and see what we could find. We asked questions and we just heard this laugh and we heard it, we collected it. And we even asked the people, like, were you guys joking? They're like, no, we were quiet. We knew you guys were recording. So those are things that I try to.
You talk to dead people.
Yeah, I don't talk to them like that though, right? Like that I think is true. I've totally, on a side note, been trying to buy one of those machines because I think it would be so cool just leave it in my house and see what happens. But so we are like psychic mediums in my house, and we conduct like the Spanish equivalent of a seance, right? We do misas and we talk to people and we feel energy and things like that, right? But so we're like, what do you call it? The clairvoyant, right? All that. But what I want to know is, when you hear something say I'm bad, do you just leave? Because I would just leave. I'd be like, you're bad. We're good. I'll see you later.
Nothing, based on our interviews, nothing has harmed anyone there except for one person. Because that person was being very.
That guy just. Yeah, I was like, what the hell was that? And that guy had a bad day. That guy had a bad day.
Yeah. But we, at the Elks Lodge, one of the main guys was telling us a story about this man who was being very disrespectful, and whatever was in that room didn't like his tone and the words that he was using. So he threw this glass across the room and it almost hit the guy. And it was a way of saying, hey, you be respectful in our house. You don't use words like that, kind of thing. So that's another take on it. Like, it depends on how respectful are you to whatever
the situation that's going on.
Even if it's bad or good, I'm like, look, I respect you.
No me toques.
No me toques. Like, I'm here to listen. Just do not follow me home. Do not touch me, and just make communication with me.
Okay, now.
Yeah.
I'm. This might sound a little bit out there, but you've said no me toques a few times. That ghost was speaking English.
Yeah.
Okay, now, are we going to assume that these fuckers are bilingual or that they just happen to speak the regional language? That's, is it a thing? Or do these guys just speak every language once they're dead? They just become these all-knowing beings. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, how if he's speaking English and you say no me toques, he don't know no me toques, or does he know no me toques?
It's pretty interesting because that's something that's always been circulated too. And there have been investigations in other countries where American investigators will go to Italy and they'll go to a supposed haunted location,
and they'll speak English,
and they'll ask in English and they'll get a response in Italian. And it's really interesting to know that the energy there is going to know and understand what you're doing and what you're trying to say and what you're trying to communicate. And sure, they had a translator translate the EVPs, and he's like, oh, it sounds like, I'm here. It sounds like go away and all these other things. So that's another question that's been, inconclusive, just like, with the EVPs, it's very inconclusive, because I've been in situations such as this. We didn't hear the voices, but then in another location, we heard a laugh. And we still captured it. So it's very inconclusive.
I don't think so we believe, like, people who practice Santeria believe that there's no language barrier. So I can get possessed, and if I'm in Cuba, let's say, I can get possessed. And even if I don't speak very good Spanish, whatever I'm supposed to communicate through, it's going to happen if I'm really possessed, right? Now, if I'm not possessed, I'm just faking the funk, it's not going to happen. But when like Orishas come down and mount, they speak Yoruba, right? They speak a dialect, an African dialect.
Yes.
And it's mixed with a little bit of Spanish. But in that moment, and I'm talking from experience, that they're talking to you, you're understanding exactly what they're wanting to tell you. Where I speak some Yoruba, but I'm not fluent. But there's something in the communication that they're communicating to you. And I also think like the no me toques, I think that the energy on the other side, there's no barrier of language.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
There's like no, because even if Alan Kardec wrote a book on that we use for spiritual masses to open the mass. That's where we read from Alan Kardec. And he says, there's a prayer in there that says there's a very thin veil between the dead and us. That's all that's dividing us is a thin veil.
Yeah.
That veil knows it doesn't know a language.
Yeah.
So maybe
there's no barrier.
I just don't know how the no me toques has worked so long for you, because I could be like, no me toques, no me tocan anyway. They're going to go home with me. You know, I don't know, but that good for you, girl. But I don't think that the language thing is like you know what I mean?
It's not, there's no barrier. Yeah, there is absolutely
people get
no
haunted
barrier.
in English, Spanish,
French, everything.
anything, right?
Around the world.
Around the world, there's always been hauntings.
We're just talking about the Olympics. There's hauntings in,
Asia.
There's hauntings everywhere,
absolutely.
right? So, but
that's why their show's Ghost Hunters International. You know, they went all over the world.
so if you do this, does that mean that like you're more careful of where you go, like on a daily? Like, I'm careful with my energy, right? Like I'm careful more so now about where my energy is spent and where I surround myself with energy. Yeah. So I think that if my job was to like dispel, because that's really what it is, right? You don't want it to be haunted, do you? You want to kind of reason it away. Just kind of let it go away from me. Just know it's not allowed to do anything or follow me or do anything with me. So I just go in anywhere with the mindset. But I noticed that the more I've investigated within time, I have been visited outside. And, I had been visited by an entity by the name of Frank, who I captured on a camera, on a selfie. You can find it on our Instagram. And how do you know his name's Frank? Hold on.
Okay. You want to hear a little story?
Yeah, I want to know why his name is Frank.
I'm going to pass this picture if I can find it. So the story is, I went to go pick up a sewing machine in Burbank. I parked in front of this shop, and I've worked with them for 7 years. I decided to do a TikTok. And in the TikTok, I was wearing glasses. And then I noticed a face in the image of my glasses. And I thought it was me. I thought it was, I'm taking, video. But then I zoomed in. I'm like, I don't have male facial features, I know waxed, nothing like that. I noticed that whatever was there, it had a scruff and it was bald. And I said to myself, no, this is something here. So I forwarded to a few of my friends who are in, the paranormal investigation community. And they're like, we don't know what it is, Tammie, but it is a man. It is not you. Because if you notice in the video, you're moving your mouth, and this entity, whatever you captured, his mouth is closed the whole time.
Could it be the same dude that you saw in that place in Arrowhead?
No, it wasn't.
No.
So the next day I contact the shop. Something told me in the middle of my workday to go and contact the shop. And that's what I ended up doing. And, I asked the guy, I have good rapport. I was like, Matt, is your shop haunted? And without hesitation, he's like, yeah. We've been having activity for the past couple of years. His name is Frank. I'm like, you gave it a name. And I'm like, who is Frank? Is he attached to one of your vintage machines? He said, no. He was a worker who used to work here several years ago, and he died on his way to work here. And ever since then, he came to work and never left. He just is always here. And I'm like, how is he there? And can you please tell me what he looked like? Oh yeah, things started moving on its own. I would hear footsteps when I'm by myself in the shop. Tools would go missing and end up on the opposite end of the shop. And things would fall off the shelves. Like we would sequester them all the way in the back of the shelves, and they would just like fly off. And then when we started saying, hey, Frank, is that you? It's kind of like we got an intelligent response. And I asked him, can you please tell me, what did Frank look like? And he said, yeah, Frank, bald, had big glasses, and had a scruff.
Oh, that's crazy.
I asked him, like, I think I captured something on my camera and I need to show it to you pronto. And he said, yeah, do it. Just come by tomorrow. I go over there. It's him and the owner. I show them the picture that I captured. They're like, their jaws dropped. The blood rushed out of their face. They're like, that's Frank.
Tammie.
That is Frank.
Martin Tammie.
And I wasn't looking for it. I was picking up a sewing machine for work. I was just not thinking of anything.
Is it because you're so open to
Yes,
that world that
absolutely.
these entities feel like some kind of like, okay, she knows
They're
she's
going to get attention.
Yes. I'm going to show you. I did a replication of it, but here is Frank.
Oh, shit.
Now, here's me. I tried to debunk it, right? But you notice my mouth is open. I'm wearing lipstick. Here's me. That's my selfie. Right?
Yes.
And my mouth is, my mouth is moving and my mouth is open here. You see all these things, but for some reason, there's a man right there. And that's Frank.
That's cool.
And people are
Well,
like,
that's
no,
cool.
that's your self. That's a self. I'm like, I don't have a scruff. And they described him to a T. They were like, when I was on the phone with them the day before, he was like, he was bald. He was really old, like 50s, 60s, and he had a scruff. And he always walked in with these Terminator-looking pawpaw glasses. And I'm like, that's what
So we were talking about who's the actress that the little girl appears.
the actress of the...
The one we were just talking about, that she was happy, Judy Garland.
Judy
Yeah,
Garland.
yeah.
Judy
Judy
Garland.
Garland.
Right now, this dude is manifesting himself as he was when he left.
Yes.
She is manifesting herself as
A little girl.
as a little
kid.
girl. How do you like? How does that like? Because I would figure if you came back as is, or do you choose? Hey, I like teenage me.
Or you're gonna wear the clothes that you died in.
I was in great shape when I was freaking 33. I want to come back as my 33-year-old self versus my 80-year-old self that passed. I want energy when I'm out there haunting and stuff. Like, do you get to choose the body that you come back in?
We believe so. Like you said, there's no barrier,
And can you come back in different incarnations?
It could be possible. I mean, it's a difference because we don't know if there's two different types of hauntings. Well, there's several, but the main two are intelligent and residual. Residual being, the stone tape theory that it's something constantly being played over and over again. It's something that's been absorbed into the environment and it's on a replay.
Okay.
And a lot of times it's going to take the form and the appearance of how it was during that time, date, and what was happening. So we believe possibly what's going on in that house of Judy. It's either, a residual play.
It's like playing over and over.
Yes,
Maybe
because
she was happy
yes, because they're like, well, she runs around the house and it's always around the house the same, and she's wearing the same thing, and she's laughing and she's giggling, and it's the same motion. So this one is intelligent. Frank is intelligent because Frank responds. He's been trying to get their attention for years, and it's worked. And these guys were skeptic. They were like, we didn't believe in stuff like this, and it started happening to us. We couldn't, in front of us, and we couldn't explain it. And when we started talking to him, we knew it was Frank, it started to respond in certain ways.
Look, this is just really like a lot to take in.
It is.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, say you're Judy Garland, right? And she's able to go to like wherever she died wasn't at her childhood home. She died somewhere else. That's but she was able to go back to that place, right? If you can be anywhere, why the fuck is Frank at work?
He was happiest there, and that's what I asked the
What the fuck is Frank?
I know. I would be at a
mean,
buffet in Vegas.
do you know?
Martin would
Yeah.
be at, I don't know. He'd be
I don't know where
partying
I'd
with
be. I don't know that I'd be
all
at
the
work.
remaining, all the people from ACDC.
I would hate that to be at work, but he was happiest at work. He didn't have any family. He didn't have any friends.
Oh, that's sad.
When he died of complications of pneumonia. He was a recovering alcoholic. He was a recovering heroin user.
Frank had a sad life.
He had a very sad and lonely life. All he had was 3 pairs of shirts, 3 pairs of pants, a bike, a flip phone, and this job. And I would ask them, like, would he come during times where he was supposed to be off? Yeah, he would just hang with us. And we knew, like, this guy's, he doesn't have anybody. He has us.
That's sad.
And
That would make sense why he's there.
Right, that's
Yeah.
sad. Frank needs a levantamiento espiritual. Get on with your life, Frank. But, or your other life, Frank.
yeah,
But,
and he is very, very intelligent. And when I was doing an Instagram live because people were following the story, and I should have recorded it, but I mean, it felt like it was a eulogy because we were talking about him, and they were sharing funny stories about him, and I think that's probably what he wanted through me. And I don't mean to sound woo-woo. I think he felt like, this girl's going to help me, like, tell my story or something. And with 123 people that were on our live, people got to hear his story, that he mattered and that he lived.
I totally think that makes sense. I think that the one person, like, your whole family cannot be into spiritualism, and then you end up at a misa and the spirit sees that you're the person who's trying to communicate. That's it. You're the beacon of light.
Yes.
Like,
You're the magnet.
You're going to
Yeah.
get me the attention and the caring that I need at this, to elevate myself, right?
Yes, a good metaphor is you're at a party and everybody's dancing with one another and you're looking for someone to dance with you and you're like, radar detected, got you. You see that one person that is by themselves, you're going to go and dance with them. And that is how it's like when you're in an investigation or when you're just out and about. Like, it can, depending on how open you are, they find you.
I want to know, okay, so do you have a religious belief?
I was raised as a Catholic, but I'm not practicing. Yeah. But, I just believe that there's a God, there's an Allah, there's something out there.
Some energy.
Yeah. And
Okay.
believe that if you do good, you
Go to
good.
heaven.
Well, good things happen to you. I believe that now doing, more of this paranormal stuff and investigations, I feel like, we come back reincarnated, or we, go to our next life or our next mission. That's what I believe. There is possibly a heaven in our minds that we do go to. Who knows? But
not like the cartoon heaven. Like, we're all up there with the cherub and we're drinking
Yeah.
mimosas.
Yeah.
And we're, okay.
Petting tigers.
We're petting tigers.
Yeah.
Me, Siegfried and Roy.
Exactly.
And- okay. Got it. Okay.
Now, if there's a heaven, is there a hell?
That I've been also, I've been in so many discussions. I've had one with a psychic that was very interesting. She's like, I really don't believe in hell. I believe that this is hell. I'm like, right now? And they're like, yeah, this is purgatory for whatever can't move forward. And
This realm here?
yes, that this is purgatory for entities that can't move forward. This is their hell. I'm like, whoa, that's really interesting. She did a cleansing or an investigation at Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum, and he has things that belong to Charles Manson.
Oh, I've been there. Mm-hmm.
And she was telling me that she saw Charles there, and he was crying and he wanted to move forward, and he's just earthbound. He can't because of what he's done. So that is his purgatory. This is his hell.
I want to tell you, I've been to that place. It's in Vegas. I think I told you about it. I took, of course, like 4 of our god kids, right? So we go. And I think a lot of stuff is gimmicky, right? It's cool. It's gimmicky. But randomly, they have Dr. Kevorkian's old van.
Oh, yeah.
Shit.
And they have his desk. And I didn't feel really, I only felt something like in 2 rooms. One of them was that place. And I didn't feel like, ooh, they're touching me. When I walked in, I told the girl, is this room on rollers?
Oh.
Because I feel like I'm swaying.
Whoa.
And the girl was like, no, but the psychics who we've had all say it feels like it's on rollers. And I said, yeah, I don't feel anything bad. I told her, but I feel like I'm swaying. And then it got to the point where they have his chair.
Oh, no.
And it was funny because my godson Joy was like, Madrina, you can't touch that chair. But I felt like I was going to fall forward.
Oh,
so I grabbed onto the chair.
Off. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to sit down in this chair. And the girl was like, and I was like, no, you don't understand. I feel very like, it was weird. I felt like I was drugged. So then when we went outside, somebody else started talking to me because they record you while you're in there. And you can see me like kind of swaying.
Yeah,
and
it is
people have
amazing.
passed out there.
Yeah.
And when I went outside, some guy was talking to me. He goes, the drug that he would give them to help them go
Oh, shit.
would make them feel really
Oh, I got
sleepy
goosebumps.
and
I just heard.
sway.
Whew.
I was like, what?
I got goosebumps.
In that
Oh my
room.
God.
So you guys haven't gone. You guys should totally go because you're like, what the hell? And then
And you didn't know that.
I didn't, how was I going to know?
You didn't know that, right? Yeah.
This was all planned by my, by Joey, my godson, and we went. And then that house has a basement that wasn't open. So now they opened it. So my other goddaughter, Crystal, goes down there and they have an EVP machine.
Oh, God.
And I'm at the top because it was right after all that. And I'm like, I'm not going anymore. That's it. Like, I don't want anything home with me. That's the first thing I think about, right? So then she goes down there and it says Crystal.
Oh, no.
And of course, in my mind, I'm like, bullshit. They read her card. They know her name.
Right.
This is so dumb, And then it says demon. But they're together. And my godson Joy's like, did it just call you a demon? And we go up and I tell the girl, tell me the truth. You guys read the stuff. It's fine. She's like, no. And it doesn't say names. She's like, it says very few names. I was like, okay, we're going home now.
What?
But I feel like I saw the Charles Manson thing. I didn't feel anything with this thing, but I saw it. But I was like, oh, it's all this energy. There's so much energy. And then there's like the whole idea.
It's all trigger objects.
Don't you like the mass hysteria? Don't you ever go somewhere and there's so many people who think it's really happening and then everybody's like
group bias?
Does that happen to you in
all
these
the time.
investigations?
Yeah, whenever I've done an investigation at a location with a group, it was kind of like a public investigation, and someone brought a spirit box, and it's one of those boxes where you hear the white noise and you hear like the radio waves coming through with certain words and syllables, and spirit's supposed to use those radio frequencies to communicate through this white noise. And people would start to say, oh, it said yes, it said my name, did you hear? Oh yeah, I think it said, it's all this whole thing of like, well, he said it and I think I heard it. So
Total circumstance.
Yeah. There is a method, it's called the Estes method, where you're blindfolded and you connect noise canceling headphones to an SB7, and it's just you and the words coming through, on the white noise. And whoever is outside, the deliverer, who's delivering the questions, you can't hear. And then I've been in a situation recently where they've asked questions. This was in the LAPD museum, and they're like, who are we talking to? And instantly I heard the noise, or the name Larry. Larry Smith Jr. was one of the robbers. I just heard that come through. And of course, like, I heard it. I remember I heard it. So that also creates sensory deprivation, cuts the group bias. So it's just you being the receiver, receiving the messages.
So you have on, I think I've seen this. You have on headphones. You can't hear me.
You can't.
I'm asking, Martin has on headphones and I'm asking him questions.
And a blindfold, because if it has to eliminate your vision and everything. The whole point is just having your audio like
sensory deprived, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I can't look at like what you're saying, trying to make up what you're saying to respond. So yeah, it could be, they're in the room with you and they're asking the question, or they could be in the next room asking the question, and you're the receiver, receiving the information through the SB7.
Man.
How do you decide where to go? Like, Martin calls you and he's like, my house is haunted.
Well, first we got to figure out what's going on. I have to do my research. I have to go through archives and news clippings and everything. And then we'll decide whether or not, okay, we might have something here. Let's go do a walkthrough. Let's do a screening. Let's do a base reading. And let's see what we could come up with.
So it's lengthy. Like, it's not just, I'm going to call you, you're going to come.
Yes, it is not like how we see in the movies, it's not like that. But there have been areas where I've been invited by historians and other investigators, or I just reach out to people after being told, hey, I think this place is haunted. You should definitely go and talk to them and see what you can do. And that's what I did with the LAPD museum. I reached out to them and I said, hey, I was contacted by this, other group, and I wanted to reach out. I heard you guys got some ghosts over there. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, can I come over there and interview? Oh, yeah. We'll have an officer who used to work here, and he has a really good story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And sure enough, like, there were a lot of accounts. There were a lot of witness accounts of what people saw and felt.
And this transcends ethnicities, right? Because it's not like it's just like a
Hispanics.
Hispanic,
No.
because Hispanics are really superstitious.
Oh,
and
we're
things.
very
Yeah,
spiritual, and you know what
or
really makes
Latinx.
Oh, I like that
what-
she said spiritual. You said superstitious.
Okay. I mean, I
that.
think
I like that.
Look, you could be a creepy mija. Okay, creepy.
There you
mija
go,
right
creepy
there.
Mija. That's funny. But yeah, no, there's, I think, but it transcends like so many different, like because you've got Africa, who that's just
Yeah.
completely filled with the Santeria,
Yeah.
the origins of it. Anyway, you've got Haiti, with the voodoo. You've got even New Orleans. We were talking about New Orleans earlier. You said you went to school there.
Yeah, I'm from New Orleans originally, and I went to school there, and I heard stories about a lot of things that would happen in, these old duplexes and houses that my friends would rent.
I mean, you've been to the voodoo section in town, right?
Oh, I've been to Bloody Mary's Haunted Museum.
There you go. You see, like,
And I was locked in that
you
museum.
walked
On
through
accident. They left me there.
You see?
in Bloody Mary's museum.
Oh, Bloody Mary has been seeing them. She talks. She has things that used to belong to Marie Laveau.
I've been to that one too.
It's amazing.
I gotta
And
go.
that's
But
Zach and Addie's apartments there.
my thing is, like, you feel it in the air.
Oh yeah.
You feel it in the air. You feel the, I don't want to say magic, but definitely the energy
You
is in
feel
the air. There's
something
something that where you're
different.
just like, you walk up and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere like, and you walk into some of these shops.
Back in time sometimes.
And you walk in some of these shops and you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, this is like nothing I've ever seen before.
And after Katrina, I had a lot of friends that would come back and say, I felt so heavy there.
Yeah.
I felt a weight on me when I was there. And when I left, it was gone.
And then the Christian church was saying, irresponsibly, I feel that Katrina was a punishment for all the voodoo that they,
Of course it
that
was.
they were.
No,
that
it was
they were
all about, it was just.
doing. It was God getting back at them for their sinful fucking ways.
I like how God always attacks the poor.
Obviously.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand how that demographic worked.
Yeah,
But
yeah, but
It's
again, it's everywhere,
negligence,
everywhere.
honestly. Yeah,
What's that?
greed. It was just greed and negligence is what happened over there.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't God.
Doesn't God, no.
I don't think God was there that day. But when I went to New Orleans, I went to those places. But they have this thing in New Orleans. You've been in New Orleans?
Yeah.
They have those tours, right? I'm a sucker for a tour. So I'm like, okay, let's go on this tour. And I didn't feel anything on those tours. I was just like, oh, this is cool. A lot of history. I love it. But then they took us to a restaurant. I don't even know if it's still there now, but the restaurant had been a place where they would bring slaves right before they sold them. And they had these pegs on the wall.
That is
And they would
horrible.
handcuff them, right? The guy's like, yeah, like each one was holding onto a peg. But the pegs were so close together. And I was like, wait, these pegs, the only way this would work is if they're standing on top of each
I
other.
would never wanna
He's like,
eat
yeah,
there.
the guy at the bottom would die because the people are trampling him. And he's like, you can walk in. And I remember walking in. I went to the Marie Laveau house. I didn't feel anything. I just thought it was interesting. When I went in there, I was like, there is so much like negative energy. And the guy was like, yeah, every restaurant they put here, it's literally like they don't use that space. And then there's a restaurant, right? He's like, every restaurant they put bombs. He's like, and I've told the guys who buy the place, of course, these people were starving.
I gotta find out
you have
what
a
that place
restaurant.
is. Yeah.
And yeah, it's right on Bourbon.
Oh, God. Well, we don't go to Bourbon.
Yeah, it's right on Bourbon.
We avoid it.
It's right on Bourbon. But
When you're a New Orleanian, you're like, no, we don't.
everyone told me that too.
That's hysterical.
Everyone told me that too. But yeah, it's like right on towards the end, like where all the gay cabarets are at the end of Bourbon.
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, but there was like, I remember feeling like,
the
there's a
locals
lot
are
of-
like, no, we just hang out on French Street.
Well, we used to now. Now Frenchman is now a tourist trap.
Frenchman,
Yeah, it turned
yeah.
into French. Yeah, Frenchman when I was going to school was the place, and now it's gotten very touristy.
I haven't been there in years. I like it though.
The hell was I gonna say? Jesus.
So the energy, right? You were saying the residual energy, like on the loop. I feel like when you said that, I'm like, oh, like that place. It's on this like sad loop.
Yeah.
The slaves in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh yeah, Savannah is crazy.
Yeah, there is. You walk and then you go down like to this other side of town, like it's like the bottom where there's still cobblestone roads, and there's a lot of bars and there's a lot of pirate bars.
Yes.
And
Like pirate, like
pirates, like the piratas from back in the day.
with the boat, like
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so they used to go to these bars, get the people drunk, and then they would Shanghai them, and then they'd find themselves rowing on the bottom of the fucking boat. They've been kidnapped, and
wow.
they'd get them loaded, and then they take them out of this. There's a restaurant, I think it's called the Pirate's House, and they said that's haunted.
Wow.
And it's a giant, like they see this, they see that, and they tell the story, and they show you the rooms where they'd get these people loaded, and then when they'd wake up, they'd find themselves, enslaved,
Get the
rowing a
fuck outta
fucking ship.
Yeah.
And they'd get shanghaied out of these bars
New
and
Orleans
restaurants.
and Savannah are
This
neck
is
and neck.
Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're literally walking over
we
dead
would have
people.
literally been
Yeah.
shanghaied yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
We could have found
So
ourselves
Shanghai.
rowing to Baja.
Shanghai. So Shanghai.
Never,
You
never
were
again.
Just, you were just playing out.
we were
shit-faced.
just so lucky.
Yeah, dude. Talk about date rape, dude. Like, that shit is like, you're forever a fucking roller.
You were possessed by the spirits.
That's it. And do you
Dude.
invite people to go with you to do these paranormal? I'm trying to get us invited.
Oh yeah, of
Do
course.
you invite us? Do
Yeah.
you invite us? Do you invite people? We would
Do
I
you
totally-
do.
invite
I
us?
like.
Do you invite us, or how do we
to-
get to go?
I like to invite, a couple of my friends. I invited my neighbors to the second investigation I did at the Los Angeles Police Museum, and they're also investigators too. But they did such a phenomenal job with certain methods and things that I love to learn from other people and to see what strangers, other people who are not investigators, see what they go through.
I feel like we could add a lot. He's a skeptic,
No, it's
so
great.
that's great. And then I'm
Yeah.
a witch. I mean, come on.
Yeah, when I come across one, I'll definitely
be like,
contact
"No me
you guys.
toques,
Yeah,
no me
No me
toques, no me
toques. I ain't trying to roll for the rest of my life. Fuck away from me, Satan.
They're like, have this mimosa, Martin. We're rowing now.
You said earlier you were talking about, and I made a little mental note of it. You said when you get possessed by, and then they're speaking in the Yoruba or whatnot. That just saying I get possessed is just.
Did I say I get possessed?
You said when you get possessed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so like when that, like you can't just throw that out there. Like, when I think possession, of course, everybody's mind goes to The Exorcist, right? It's like
Oh,
this demonic
absolutely.
possession.
Yeah.
That movie scared me.
That was that house was in the East Coast, yeah. They tore it down. It was over there.
The
by
real house,
Georgetown,
you
yes.
mean, right? It
Yeah.
was by Georgetown. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. It
And
was.
they actually, I went to those stairs there, and then where the building is, they literally leveled it because they just had too many things going down over there. Right now, you've got people that when you think possession, it's immediately a negative thought. It's like this demon wants to do you harm, and it's possessing.
It's always a demon.
That
Yeah.
crazy.
It's always,
It's always a
right. It's
demon.
never something good.
Could
Yeah.
it be a good spirit possessing you? Is that what you're talking about when you get possessed? Is it a good
I think
spirit
that
that
they're
possesses
good
you and talks?
I think that, like, okay, my take is biased because I practice Santeria. Okay, so this is what I think. I think that there are people, they're called montadores, where the Orisha will possess them. I don't think it's the
Montadores, mounters.
Mounters, right? Because you get mounted. You get mounted.
In a sexual way, or?
No, you get mounted, no, spiritually. So it's like, the way that I can describe it is like that Orisha, obviously, that whole energy is not... There's no way that you in your human form could manifest and take in that whole Orisha. These are things that are on a very, like, it's an energy base and it's so large. This is a tenth. The Orisha is like touching you with two fingers, right? But for us, that we're not in that, right? We're not on that plane.
Right.
The person will take in that energy, and then that Orisha, will take over them for a certain amount of time. And then they will say things, and they will, I'm not, obviously, I'm not gullible. I've seen people fake it. I've seen people really do it. I also think that you don't have to be a negative entity to take possession. I've seen people at spiritual masses that get possessed. My mother passes her muerto. But the real trick, the real thing that you have to study for so long is so that you don't have to do that. Because you have to get some kind of religious etiquette So I can't sit here every time I feel a muerto and ooh, like, come on, what is this? Plus, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Afterwards, it doesn't feel good. So the real thing that people who are like mediums and in Santeria, what we strive for is to have that veil where I don't have to be in a mass lighting my arm on fire, doing the hokey pokey to show you that I'm here. I can just tell you things because that spirit is communicating to me.
Absolutely.
24/7.
But I think that people think that you have the upper hand. Like, oh, she knows. No, because sometimes you're not. If I was connected all the time, I would go crazy. So sometimes it's in the back of your mind, and every so often you'll get it during the day, like, oh, this and this. But I think that when the Orisha mounts and possesses someone or the muerto, people do see it very negatively because what we've been taught by the church is that you don't get possessed, even though they're the first ones who were getting possessed. Like, it's proven. They have a whole thing on possession in the church. There's people who are specific to that sect.
There's been a lot of people that have died getting exorcised. Where the ritual is so torturous that they literally beat them to death.
Because I think that anything that doesn't coincide with the church is bad. Right?
And that's exactly a really good point to make. And I was talking to Kieran O'Keefe, who's he's a very awesome parapsychologist, and he was on the podcast Battersea Poltergeist. And he spoke with an exorcist who told him there has been a huge increase of exorcisms recently. He's like, I really think that people really believe that they're being like possessed by something, and they really think it's negative and it's a demon. And a lot of times it could be mental health.
I think a lot of times it's mental health.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
But a lot of times these are hallucinations, and they feel that the way to get rid of these hallucinations is through an exorcism.
Yes.
They believe that those hallucinations are the devil doing it.
Yeah, he gets.
Well, that was the whole thing with lobotomies, right?
Yes.
They would give you a lobotomy. They would try to get rid of that thought. They're going in through your eyeball. They're going in through the side of your head.
What's her name? One of the Kennedy women who was the horny one, and they caught her fucking.
Is that her birth name?
They I forget her name, but they lobotomized her so she wouldn't fuck anymore.
Yeah, same
that's
thing
just
with
ridiculous.
gay.
That's crazy.
Gay men in conversion camps. In the Midwest, my co-host Bryce was talking about this too. He's had friends whose families were very strict Christians, and they would send them to exorcists to pray the gay away.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's insane.
That's
everybody knows you cannot pray the gay away.
Obviously.
You have to suck it
exercise.
away.
I knew it was coming. I was like, obviously.
He was building
it. But I think that, like, I also think that there's a lot of mental health, but I also think sometimes those people are really being spoken to by an entity, and because there's no one to guide you, it goes left.
And that is a good debate that we've had too in our community. Like, what if it's not just mental health? What if it is the mental health where people are? It's been wrongly defined as that. What if they're open and they don't know what's going on?
I'm a firm believer in that. I've always said that when I see people in the streets yelling at the sky and screaming and fighting off something, it's like, okay, is this person is this mental illness, or is he fighting off the destruction of the world by doing this and keeping this at bay, that working, showering, and nothing else matters other than this fight that he has to get to, so that, for our sake. I mean, is that a possibility?
That is definitely a possibility.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't, like, it sounds crazy, but it can also be that motherfucker is screaming at something that he can see.
I mean, it's a great hypothesis, and that's the thing about the paranormal is there's a lot of inconclusive subjects. They could go on and on for days, but we're never going to have the answer. And I wholeheartedly believe that we'll never get that answer until we pass ourselves. You know, it will always be inconclusive.
So now that you know things get haunted, you want to come back and haunt anybody when you pass on? Are you like, I'm going to come back and do something?
Yes, if I pass before my husband, I will
That's
haunt him.
hilarious.
I will change the Netflix passwords.
Right? Just do some annoying shit.
I would
Like,
be
Hysterical.
so petty.
right? You're like, that ATM code doesn't work today.
I know.
I can't find one shoe.
Who bent my Nikes, you know?
all the left shoes are just missing. There's just a bunch of right shoes.
100%.
You don't need to be a ghost to do that. I broke up with somebody and took all his left shoes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's the queen of petty right there.
One of my sisters did that.
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh, she's a
It was
kindred
just-
spirit. I took all the left shoes. I
she
was like, we're
Yeah,
really
I
not
was
going to
like,
have
what
any
the
shoes.
fuck are you doing?
And in the suits, I took all the jackets.
Oh, that's wrong.
We're not going to be matching today, buddy. So as a ghost, I'd be a real pain in the ass. But very.
Listen, I think it's been a very enlightening conversation. I think what you do is hands down. I couldn't sign up to do. I'm curious, and I'd love to. It's almost like going on a ride along with the cops. You know, like I'll go check it out, but I don't know that it'd be
He
like.
doesn't want to work there. We just want to go for a day.
Yeah. Because I mean,
I'll just be the intern.
It would be so heavy, dude, to take that. To like, you know, like when she says when she mentioned the no me toques and things. It's like it's one thing to say that, but some of the stuff that you must have seen has got to like really weigh on you sometimes, I would imagine.
Yeah, I go through some. I call it the paranormal hangover, where I'm literally done like 2 to 3 investigations back to back, and I've been invited to another one, and I've had 2. I felt like the blood is rushed out of me, my equilibrium is just completely off, and I feel drained and I feel sad. I'm like, no, that's not a good sign. You know, I have to like take a break. You know, I feel completely drained, and there are times where I've had to like say no, or if it's a location that I don't feel comfortable, I'm like, no, I got to protect myself first than anything else. So
The Cecil Hotel.
is it a place that you want it to be haunted, or is it a place that is haunted?
I don't know.
Exactly. There's not been a single piece of evidence that has described a full body apparition there. I think there's something there.
They said there's a lot of dark energy.
There's
there.
a lot of dark energy because it's a hotel, and it's been something that people come in and out of, you know, and where it's located.
It's
not
so old, right? It's been there
extremely
forever.
old. Yeah. And downtown Los Angeles is in a trifecta, you know, it's just right around the corner was the LA Times that was bombed back in the 1800s, you know, and then you have this hotel and so much that has gone around there, especially Little Mexico that used to be, I believe it was a Chinatown at one point where the massacre happened, you know, by Olvera Street. There was
I'm not aware.
there was
I
a
don't know.
Chinese massacre that happened back in 1800s. I think it was 1812, where a mob of, I think, Italian men, could be wrong, but it was another mob of immigrants that murdered and killed and hung these, you know, Chinese immigrants by Olvera Street.
Fuck.
You could research. It's the Chinese massacre in 1812. I think that's what it is. It could-
1812.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a lot of things have happened in that area. Then you have this constant rotation of people coming in and out of that hotel. A lot of people committing suicide. You know, it's not necessarily
overdoses.
Yes, and it's not necessarily a place where, you know, it's right next to Skid Row, but it's like kind of around the corner from there. It's away from there, but you still get a lot of that, you know, that heaviness, I guess you can say. But there is an energy there. And Patty Negri, who was one of the psychics who investigated with Ghost Adventures, I'm pretty good friends with her. And I was like, Patty, what did you feel? She's like, it's a lot. It's like rotating energy. It's a combination of energy in and
Have
out
you
of there.
been?
I've been in the lobby. After that whole thing happened with Elisa, they were very strict. And I wanted to go see it. I've you know, of course, you know, I wanted to go see it for myself. I wanted to see like what happened, and I wanted to see the chaos and everything. And I walked in and they knew. They were like, do you have a reservation? And I said,
You're all possibly.
maybe. And they noticed I didn't have a bag or anything, and they're like, you're going to have to go. I think that's when a lot of people were trying to come
Trying to
in.
go in and out.
Yeah. I've had friends who have investigated there. They've collected some EVPs. One of my friends spoke with the security guards, and she found out that the cameras that they have, I think on the roof or in the back of the hotel, they're like phony cameras. They're faux. Yeah. So,
Which explains a lot. That's how like the
Yeah.
Night Stalker was able to like take off his clothes and go to his room.
yeah, because
Nobody
you
saw
always
But back
wonder,
then there was no real cameras, really. Per
if you're
se.
gonna have a
Oh,
hotel,
yeah.
There was no
Right.
security
yeah.
cameras back then. That's why he went into so many houses undetected.
Oh well,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, there was like
During that time, people still
yeah.
left their doors open.
they left their doors open. A and B, again, there were security cameras were a thing of like really
After-
fancy department
Yeah.
stores, like and
It wasn't available like for the masses.
Not like it is
not like
today.
how we have the nests and stuff. Yeah. So when people ask me about the Cecil, that's my immediate, is like, is this something that you wanted to be haunted or is it really haunted? Because honestly, I could tell you there hasn't been tangible evidence stating that it is. Until I see a picture or something of a full-bodied apparition or not an orb, then I could change my mind. But for one, I want to go and investigate. And I have another friend that's investigating there very soon. And he's a mystic, and I know he's going to get a lot of things. So who knows? Yeah, I feel like that place is very inconclusive when it comes to, is it haunted or is it haunted because you want it to be haunted?
Now, as a paranormal investigator,
Mm-hmm.
do you also consider yourself psychic, mystic?
No.
None of that. You don't have you don't talk to the dead.
No, I'm not woo-woo, anything like that. I know my grandmother.
She said, well, what? I do wiki
wiki, you know. I know my grandmother, talking to my sisters, like we always felt that she was different. And, you know, she was also a God-fearing woman, but we felt like she had some sensitive capabilities. My sister is very sensitive and she closes it off. In New Orleans, in her old house, she felt a lot of things around there. And it was a very old location where she lived, which was Gretna. And she's like, I don't know, Tammie, there's something outside. And I know that my little boy sees it. Like, I'll be doing the dishes and he's laughing at the corner. He's laughing at an empty corner. So I'm like, what do you feel? He's like, I feel like it's a male energy. And I believe he belongs to this location. And I mean, the area is like hundreds of years old. So it makes sense where, you know, that she would collect that. But I know I have a lot of sensitivities, but am I going to say, oh, I see and speak with the dead? Absolutely not. I just want to know if the dead want to, you know, converse or communicate with me some way. And sure,
You're all they do.
and they
Clearly,
do. I don't
I mean,
even have to
there's-
ask. They
there's
just
Frankie.
like pop up in my damn video.
There you go. They're on your TikTok. There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty freaking. That would have shook me. Like
It
seeing
did.
somebody's picture, like, dude. Like,
That
oh,
really
whoa.
shook me. And I thought that he was going to come home with me. I was like, oh, great. Like, I picked up a ghost. But
Some people get Starbucks.
yeah.
Set an extra plate, honey.
But I just, you know, I just tell it, you're not welcome in my space. You're just not welcome anywhere near me. So, no me toques. And that's it.
No me toques. No me toques.
Hollyweird Paranormal is your Instagram. And your website.
And website and Facebook. HWP Podcast is our Twitter. And you can also find us on TikTok as well.
TikTok. TikToking with the paranormal. TikTok is just crossed over everywhere now.
It has.
You know.
It is.
Tammie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tammie. Thank you,
It was
guys.
an awesome conversation. And I am curious if you do ever have anything going on that we could
We're totally
check out.
inviting ourselves. So just
Yeah,
No,
it would
absolutely.
be fantastic.
I would love to bring you guys.
Love to be a fly on the wall.
Of course.
You know? I years ago when my grandmother died, I was 9 years old, and I remember seeing her in the coffin, and it made such an impact on me. I went in the bathroom and I was getting ready, and my face in the mirror turned into her face. And was it my mind doing that? Was it her? I froze, and I ran to the front of the house, and I remember my mom was out there, and I said, I just saw my mama Nina. I said, I just saw her. And she goes, no, she's dead. You didn't see her. I go, no, she was in the mirror. I didn't go in that bathroom. We had 2 bathrooms at the time in that home. I didn't go in that bathroom for many years after that. I didn't even want to be in that room where I saw her. It was just like I was afraid, you know?
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I was like, where the fuck are you? Like,
Then you started looking
now,
for her.
yeah, now I started looking for her, you know? And so again, was it my traumatic experience of seeing my first corpse at that young of an age, somebody that I was really close to, and now I'm like looking at this, coffin, which is super fucking traumatic. I feel,
I feel like it's more traumatic because usually they would come and make a form of communication in a way where it would not scare you, and you were scared. You couldn't even go into that bathroom. And I'm sure people are like, no, it was a ghost. Could be, but I feel like spirit's going to communicate with you in a way that they're going to want to, and not. They're going to figure out a less intrusive way, like, that.
But which then goes, I mean, I know that I was saying goodbye already, but
no,
but now it just opens up
everyone has a story. I love listening to them.
To the whole, like, it's a gentle way, but all these other places, but there's all these other places where it's like the haunting scare the shit out of people.
Yeah, because they don't know how to process it, When I see it happen in front of me, I'm like, I'm trying to process it. I'm trying to figure out what it is. I'm not going to run out. I want to know what it is. But I think it's that fear. Fear is one of the most powerful things that we all embody, and we walk in with the fear from what we've seen in movies, The Exorcist, and when we see it happen and we can't explain it, we get scared. We get traumatized by it. We don't know how to handle it. And I'm sure what you experienced with your grandmother, that was your first time
processing death.
Processing death at such a young age.
Plus, I mean, we were saying goodbye, but plus, I wonder if you would think back, because I think sometimes spirits will try to tap you, like nudge you.
Oh, yeah.
And then the nudging gets harder. Mm-hmm. So maybe if you look back on that experience, maybe she was trying to nudge you before then.
Yes.
And this last one was the final nudge.
Probably. That could be another. Yeah.
Well, I mean, she was close to you.
Did it happen to anybody else or your mom or any? No? Okay.
Very specific to my friend.
Which again, was it a figment of my imagination? Obviously. Mm-hmm. That, I just but it was just so fucking real. Like it wasn't my face in the mirror. Mm-hmm. It was hers.
It could have been. It could have been her way of saying goodbye, or saying that I'm always going to be there.
Or saying hello. Yeah.
I mean, they're going to find ways to do that. I know.
I mean, I would just say it, like, I guess I would be like, it's like a hello, like I'm still here, Like you, me, we're one. Let's do this.
It happened to a girlfriend of mine a couple of years ago. There was this infomercial that would always play about like dental care. And her television would come on at a specific hour, and the same infomercial would play. And it turned out that she felt that it was her mom reminding her to go take her kids to the dentist. She's like, I really did need to take them to the dentist. Like, it was...
Wow.
Yeah, but it was the same... Like, and I asked her, like, when she, told me the story, I'm like, well, did you ever research, the make of the television? Does it usually do this? She's like, no, girl. It's like every night, like, or every morning at 3:15, it would come on, and this infomercial about dental care would constantly play. And then I finally clicked. It was my mom. I felt like it was her telling me to, like, go take care of her teeth.
There you go.
So there you have it. I mean, they'll find ways. Mm-hmm. As messed up as it is,
Thank goodness it wasn't a gynecologist appointment, because imagine that commercial. That would have been rough.
Okay. Listen, it was fantastic. Thank you again, Tammie.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody that tuned in, or wherever you're listening, day, night, evening. Hope if you've got any kind of paranormal, I shouldn't say any kind.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Hit up Tammie. She'll fix all your problems. No matter what, if you hear voices, call Tammie.
Tammie's got a lot of time. She wants you to message her.
I know. Like the Roto-Rooter of the paranormal.
Well, again, thank you, and if everybody out there that has stuff that goes bang in the night, hit up Tammie, dude.
Yeah. Poor Tammie.
If you guys want to hear more investigations, I also have a podcast. It's called Hollyweird Paranormal Podcast. We just put up 2 parts of our LAPD investigation. Listen, we collected a lot of crazy things. So
you've collected a lot of crazy things. I browsed through your podcast a little bit, and it's fascinating. Actually,
thank you.
Yeah, so
much appreciated.
I'm gonna check out. I'm definitely gonna check out more episodes, because it's a. I'm telling you, I got sucked into the Supernatural show, and Next thing I know, I'm balls
the
deep in like,
cutest.
how many fucking
He's
seasons?
like, I'm on
is this?
season
Dude,
72.
this guy was a kid. Now he has gray hair. Like, what the hell happened to him, man? How long
know,
has
they're
this show been on the
men
air?
now.
Yeah, they
I've
were.
never seen one episode.
Oh, really?
That's
Dude.
so, like, I'm going to
Oh,
watch it.
yeah,
Then
I-
I'm going to be in a black hole.
I think
That
the
show
first one's La
has-
Llorona, the
I'll
whaler.
watch that one. I'll watch that one for sure. Thank you.
You're very welcome.